Thank you for joining us this week on the Niners News Update.
So too quickly, we were mentioning Jimmy earlier. Just to quickly cover. There's no news currently with him. Just rumors, but there's three teams that seem to be the front runners for him, which are the Colts, the Saints, and the Steelers.
Yeah.
It seems like there's sufficient evidence really for any of them to be front runners there, but it does seem like the Saints and the Steelers are the two most likely.
That's what the rumors have been.
But, it really is all the speculation.
In recent days that the trade to either New Orleans or Pittsburgh is expected to happen, and you figure if Washington traded 2/3 or potentially a third and a second for Wentz, you'd figure the Niners could probably get at least a second round pick, maybe a second and something else for Jimmy. Maybe
like a second and a fourth. Maybe like a second and a fourth.
We'll have to see.
Like
anything. We don't have a first round pick, so anything that we could get for him would be beneficial.
It also depends on the team. It also depends on the team and the desperation level of the team at the time. Jimmy did get them pretty far, so it's his value. But he had the surgery, and that kind of knocked it back down. So it's probably not going to be a first round pick. But
the surgery was successful, by the way, and he is expected to resume throwing by camp. So that is positive. But obviously, if a team wanted to take a look at him and see him throw before, have a workout with him, obviously he's in no condition to throw right now. But so a team would have to kind of be taking a shot on the quarterback with a shoulder injury on his throwing arm sight unseen. But I think like we've talked about on the show before, he's helped his trade value in 4.5 seasons with the Niners, 1 Super Bowl appearance. 2 appearances in the NFC Championship game, a winning record. Definitely, obviously, we've talked about the fact that he's got limitations, obviously, but he definitely did good things for us. I appreciate the man and everything he did for us. He brought us out of dark times. Grateful for you. 10, always appreciate it. Good luck to you. I hope that wherever you go, you kick ass. And, the one thing I will say, obviously the Saints would be one, I'd probably prefer the Saints to the Steelers, but the one negative thing about that is if he goes to the Saints, he does stay in the NFC. So I would almost like to see him go to an AFC team so we don't have to play him so frequently.
If I was just going to pick one randomly, it seems like the Steelers. And I don't really want it to be the Steelers because if he goes there, I'm gonna.
You're gonna have to. I would too. I
want the Steelers to lose. I want the Steelers to lose still, but I hope Jimmy has a great fucking game.
The Steelers go 5-10, or I'm sorry, 5-12, but Jimmy throws 28 touchdowns and 8 picks.
It has 4,500 yards or some stupid shit. And
they do have Najee Harris, that now going into his second year at running back. They've got Chase Claypool. They might bring back Juju. They've got some.
I feel like he needs to go somewhere that does have a strong running game and that's more suited, something more like the Niners. A team that's going to take Jimmy.
Pittsburgh's kind of a team like the Niners, at least in terms of they're a physical team that runs the football a lot. And honestly, for Steelers fans, that might be the one situation for Steelers fans where you got so used to Big Ben's broken ass for the last 13 years that you get Jimmy and then all of a sudden you've got basically Kyler Murray out there because compared to Big Ben, Jimmy can actually bust out an 8 or 10 yard run from time to time, and he's really good on the sneak. So.
He is. That's he's
27 for 27 in his career. The man is you can't turn him away. And actually one last quarterback related piece of news this week was back in the headlines for the first time since his famed 2019 workout was Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say before we got into this. It's he did say oh, I'm ready to go, but he's done this before. I don't know how much you want to read into it. It's news, I guess, but it's one of those things
Yeah, after his famed 2019 workout where 25 NFL teams came to see, it was. Do you remember when this happened?
I remember that. Yeah, absolutely.
Throw at the Falcons practice facility. Like the NFL sent 25 scouts from different teams, and he was going to get a real chance. Mm-hmm. And then 2 hours before the workout,
he switched it to some random high school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, what?
He's like, this isn't going to work. Yeah, and he wanted to bring his own receivers.
Yeah,
and he just made all kinds of changes, and the NFL was like, no, we're not doing that.
That's why I look into this as it's news, I guess, but it's kind of maybe not though. Cap tweeted he's ready. Well, all right, well, good for you, Cap. But until the NFL fucking cares and is willing to call him, and I don't know. And also, the last time he had a chance, he did that shit. So I don't really think it's going to amount to anything. Yeah. But I think it would be cool to see him back in the league. He was an exciting player to watch, assuming he could still play in a similar level.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, in terms of that, he looks like he's in excellent shape.
He does.
You can tell from the video, which we'll put up here. But I mean, the man. I mean, it's only like a 10-second clip of him just doing one bootleg and throwing, and you can't even see the receiver. But I mean, it's something. The man looks like he's in physical shape. I mean, I think that of the 32 NFL teams, the man at least deserves an opportunity to come in there and show what he's got. At this point.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I just don't know if the NFL is to that point yet where they. Sure. I would think, given the way that their stances have changed on a lot of things, that maybe they would be, but.
Yeah, and then you've got the Brian Flores situation going on, so the NFL's gotta tread lightly. Yeah. So yeah, that's true. But I mean, he's like you said, 2000. I mean, the man's kept himself in great shape this entire time, but he hasn't played professional football in 6 years since 2016
exactly.
when he left the Niners. So yeah, I mean that'll be interesting to follow and see what happens. But I mean, from a former Colin, I mean, I'm still a fan of what he can do on the football field and everything like that. The man's extremely talented. He did a lot of good things. He got us into a Super Bowl, obviously, and a completely different way than Jimmy did. So he's just a completely different player. He set an NFL playoff rushing record against the Packers with I think 200 and 23 rushing yards.
Him alone? He did that many alone?
Yeah.
What?
He killed the Packers in one game by himself. I was a little bit off. This game was January 12th of 2013, and he rushed for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 16
Still
carries.
Insane. That's still... I mean, what you said was a little more 220, really? But 180 is still fucking crazy.
Yeah. But nobody's ever topped that in any game. So, yeah. I mean, Kaepernick as a quarterback, just going off. So, obviously, yeah, I mean, a little bit limited as a passer. He was never, Peyton Manning in the pocket or anything. He never completed more than 59% of his passes. But obviously a dynamic player. So I would like to see him at least get a workout. And because at that point, if a team brings him in, you can at least check that off and say that he's gotten the opportunity. And then if he's not in game shape and can't play NFL football anymore, then But the argument that I have to that is Tim Tebow. I mean, if you can bring Tim Tebow in to play a completely different position after 8 years, then you can bring Kaepernick in after 6.
Well, I think it's more of the how the league is feeling, and it's political, and there's a lot more to it than that. I think he could come in and he could probably compete for a job, if not at least a backup. I mean, at the very least, I imagine he could be a backup quarterback right now.
You cannot tell me that you would rather have Mike Glennon or somebody like that than your backup.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I imagine he would still be better than that. He, with his running ability, his passing ability isn't amazing, but it's decent. I'm sure there's a lot of teams out there that would like to have him, but I feel like there's a stigma around him and regarding him in the NFL. And until the NFL is kind of willing to just let that go, which I don't know if they're there yet. And if they are, then maybe he'll get a chance. But in my opinion, I don't think anything's going to come of this. I think it's it's notable to mention he's ready to go and he wants to go out, and I think he deserves the chance. But I just for some reason don't really see it happening.
Yeah.
But I hope it does. I hope it does. I'm just saying what I think. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do really hope it does. It would be nice to he deserves a chance.
No, you're probably right. I mean, at this point, you would think that if the comeback was going to happen, probably would have happened at some point.
I mean, but the league has gotten progressively more and more, woke, as you could say, which can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. I mean, there's aspects on both sides of it that aren't great, but so things like that. Because, that's the reason Colin Kaepernick got blackballed in the first place. Because they were on the other side of things. And then now they want to do these be the change and have all these things on the helmets, and which is, great and all. But But then there's people like Colin Kaepernick out there who's still willing to and trying to want to play and not getting an opportunity. It's like, well, if you're going to preach these things, then you should probably, take the actions to show it as well.
Eric Reed, whose jersey I have too. I remember we had two players that started kneeling. It was Kaepernick and then safety Eric Reed. And after that, Eric Reed, his brother Justin Reed plays safety for the Texans, but Eric Reed's been pretty much blackballed from the NFL since as well. So obviously the rumors as to what's going to happen with Jimmy are the biggest news as it pertains to the Niners right now. A couple coaching related moves besides that. We have picked up quarterbacks coach, who's new to coaching, actually, Brian Greasy. He actually hasn't coached in the NFL before. He previously worked as an analyst on Monday Night Football, former Denver Bronco quarterback that played for Kyle's dad, Mike. We'll see what he can do for the development of young Trey Lance. Also, we got former Seattle Seahawk special team coach, Brian Schneider. So we're going to see if he can help out our special teams unit and replace Coach Hightower. Our special teams, obviously, it was a known issue, one of the worst in the league last year. So obviously, we can look to get better. Outside of like Robbie Gold being, a good field goal kicker, special teams were kind of rough. Yeah, Robbie Maddock, as I always call him. But yeah, so two coaching changes and a couple of players that were signed to one-year deals that I'll get into real quick. We signed defensive tackle Kevin Givens, who appeared in 13 games, registered 17 tackles, had a forced fumble, to a one-year deal. So good to have him back. He filled in a lot for Kinlaw when he was out. We re-signed JaMychal Hasty, who's one of our backup running backs who I like a lot.
Glad to see him back.
Yeah, especially since we don't know what's going to happen with Raheem yet. So good to get him back. He appeared in 11 games, had 16 carries, 68 yards, 1 touchdown. His main addition to the team was catching 23 passes for 157 yards. And, he was kind of like our J.D. McKissick on a lesser level type of receiving back for third downs. We also signed Maurice Hurst, who really didn't play in many games. We got him from the Raiders. It was him and Arden Key. We picked up 2 Raiders linemen last year. Arden Key tore it up. I hope we can re-sign him with his 6 sacks because he was great. Maurice Hurst, however, he appeared in 2 games, registered 2 tackles, and then he went on IR for the rest of the season. And then the last couple, Colton McKivitz was signed to a 1-year contract extension, and also former third-string, potentially now second-string quarterback Nate Sudfeld also signed to a 1-year contract extension. Of course, Sudfeld, a former 6th-round draft pick by Washington when they were the Redskins in 2016. And
that name sounds
most notable for his season-ending appearance against Washington, a couple seasons ago when he started. Well, when he came in for Jalen Hurts and proceeded to play like shit, and Washington won the division off of that. So, the Niners think that there's a considerable chance that Nate Sudfeld could be the backup. I, of course, would like us to maybe either attack free agency for maybe a more experienced backup, or maybe even, the draft for a developmental guy behind Trey. But, especially since Trey hasn't played a lot, if we're not going to keep Jimmy in a reserve role at a reduced contract, of course, I would rather see us have like a veteran backup, like maybe even like a Teddy Bridgewater, because like I don't love Teddy Bridgewater, but if he's Trey's backup and he only really needs to potentially go in certain situations, I'm sure Teddy could teach him some stuff. But that's really all we have right now. 5 days until free agency hits, so we'll I'm sure we'll have some big news for you guys then. As it stands right now.
It should be another good week. Honestly, this was a pretty good week of news. With free agency coming up, the next 5 days might be a bit slow unless there's a couple more trades.
And one last guy we actually signed. The Niners were busy this week on the 1-year extensions. We also signed Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, one of our top special teams linebackers, to a 1-year contract extension, and he appeared in 17 games, 2 starts, registered 20 tackles. So. Definitely good to keep some linebacker depth. Although, as we mentioned earlier, the Niners have been in the running for potentially recently released 8-time Pro Bowler Bobby Wagner, who recently got cut by Seattle. So maybe we bring him in and pair him with Fred. So who knows? But join us next week. We'll have more for you. Have a good night. And that's going to do it for our show this week. Thank you for joining us. If you're not already, go ahead and click the subscribe button and follow us on all the social media platforms, such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and we've also got a TikTok, which is actually growing faster than anything, shockingly enough. But yeah, check us out there. Also, faithful, check out the weekly Niners news update for all your latest Niner news.
And all the Washington Commander fans out there, remember to check out the Commanders Countdown every week for news on that as well.
Indeed. And have a good night. Thank you all for joining us.
Have a good night.